This is a brand new HubSpot instance, and while it looks like nothing's going on here, there are actually two AI workflows connected to this account. These two workflows are built in MindStudio. The first workflow is an email generation workflow. This will take in the contact details for every new contact added to HubSpot and generate an email draft. As you can see, we are passing in the name, company name, location, job title, and original source. Then in ICP match, we are doing something very similar. Given the list of possible ICPs, marketer, sales manager, director, etc., match the user. And the user profile includes the name, the company, location, job title, annual revenue for the company, and industry. Both of these workflows will trigger whenever a new contact enters the HubSpot instance. It does not require any manual trigger whatsoever. We use Zapier to connect these workflows with HubSpot. And before I show you what that looks like, let's go to HubSpot and upload a new contact to start this process and check the results at the end of the video. You can find new contacts in platforms like Apollo. And since I don't want to break any privacy law or go and find personal information that people might not want out there, I'm going to use myself. So you can see Giorgio Barilla here, digital marketing consultant, and the company is, of course, MindStudio. Once you select a person, you can click on Export in the Apollo platform, save contacts, and you will get a downloadable CSV. Now that we have the CSV, we can go back to the HubSpot instance, click on Import, and import the person. Please note, this is just an example. It doesn't matter if you create the person manually, if that person is synced through an API connection, if they enter the HubSpot platform through an ad, it really does not matter. As long as they enter the platform, both workflows will start. Let's click on Start an Import, import file from computer. We are importing contacts, and let's choose the file. This is the file, and we want to create and update contacts. Click on Next. We can now map the variables. The standard mapping is usually fine, so let's not spend too much time on it, and let's not import data in unmapped columns. Click on Next one more time, name the import, agree that this includes only people that are expecting to hear from your organization, and finalize the import. It will take a couple of minutes before both workflows start, the email is generated, and we get the ICP match. So in the meantime, let's navigate to Zapier and take a look at the actual Zap. This is what's happening in Zapier. Let's click on Edit Zap to take a deeper look. The first step here is when a new contact is added into HubSpot. I connected the HubSpot instance, and whenever a new contact enters the platform, it doesn't matter from where, this workflow will trigger. This is the account, and this is the trigger. I'm adding one property to retrieve together with the default ones retrieved by the trigger. The property is original source. You can test this workflow, and you can see here a contact for the test. Let's find new records so we can see my profile here. And here you go. The company is MindStudio. The country or region of the contact is Portugal. The email is giorgio@mindstudio.ai, etc. The second step in this flow is the MindStudio run. In this example, we are not interacting with the MindStudio workflow. The API is. So there are no variables in the workflow. There is no standard interaction. There is no manual operation whatsoever. So the API needs to send all the variables we need to the MindStudio workflow. And that's why if we navigate to the MindStudio workflow, you can see the variable names are a little bit different than usual. The usual name for the name variable, for example, would simply be open graph's name, close graph, and that's it. But this is if the user input is collecting the name. In our example, we are not collecting the name anywhere other than from HubSpot. So it's HubSpot sending the information to Zapier, which is then sending the information to MindStudio. And in order to catch that information from Zapier, we are using this special syntax: open graph, $, launch variables, name. This is what we need to capture from HubSpot and send to MindStudio using Zapier as the connector. So MindStudio becomes the AI backend where the actual prompt is running, the generation is happening, and we are returning the result. And Zapier is the connector between the AI backend, MindStudio, and the frontend, so where the action happens, which is HubSpot in this example. Let's go back to Zapier And you will see that in the MindStudio Run workflow, we are connecting to our account, we are operating an action, and that action is initializing all of the variables. As I just said, we need to send the name, and the name variable should map to the name of the new contact in HubSpot. That's why the name is mapped to first name plus last name for the person. We are also syncing other variables that you've seen in the MindStudio workflow with the same syntax. Company name, location, origin source, let's actually add this in, job title, company annual revenue, and industry. All of this data is being passed to MindStudio through Zapier, and it's coming from the HubSpot trigger, the first step in this Zap. Finally, we are updating the contact. And what are we updating? One property, the ICP match property. It's the same account, it's the same HubSpot connector, but in action, we are checking the object ID coming from step number 1, and we are updating one specific property, which we will find here in the list. Contact information, partners, ICP from MindStudio. And what we are entering here is the response of step 2, so the response of our MindStudio workflow. To recap, we are getting a new contact in HubSpot, we are sending a specific set of information to MindStudio, mapping them to MindStudio variables and initializing them as variables in the MindStudio workflow. The MindStudio tries to match the person, the new contact, to one of the ICPs mentioned in the prompt, and it's going to return that ICP. Now we are taking that response from step 2 and adding it, updating one property to display that information, which is the ICP. Let's click on continue, and this is all done. Let's check if that actually happened. Let's click on our Giorgio contact in HubSpot, Actions, View All Properties, and let's look for ICP. And there you go. ICP is marketer. That's correct. I'm in marketing at MindStudio. There's also another thing that happened, which is an email draft has been attached to the contact. Let's go back to the MindStudio flow, and you'll see another API workflow here called API Email Gen. And the generate text block, which is a prompt to the AI in this instance, says this is the user and these are the variables, write the outreach email, and this is some information, for example, who should send the email, our partnership manager, and the description of what MindStudio is. The Zap looks exactly the same other than one change in the final step. So let's open that up. This is the Zap for the engagement, so for creating a note that contains an email draft. As you can see, the first 2 steps are exactly the same. Every time a new contact is added in the HubSpot instance, we want to run a MindStudio workflow, which is the same MindStudio app, but a different workflow. You can specify that at the bottom right there. We are using API emailgen.flow, which is the same name as the workflow in MindStudio. The final step, though, is a little bit different. We are creating an engagement. An engagement in HubSpot can be many different things. It can be a note, a task, a meeting, an email, or a call. In our example, we don't really want to send an email directly to the contact because we don't know what the AI will come up with. So let's create it as a note. And the new engagement note will be attached to the contact. Which contact? The contact in step number 1, the trigger contact. So here we are fetching the contact ID, which is this one coming from step 1, and we are attaching a note, the engagement type note, to this person. And the body of that note is the response from the MindStudio workflow, which is the email draft. This is what it looks like in HubSpot. Let's go back to the contact, and you will see a note. The note has been created. Here's the email draft for the outreach. We get a subject line, and we get the actual email. Dear Giorgio, I hope this email finds you well, etc. Best regards, Danielle, Head of Partnerships. If you have any immediate questions, feel free to reply to this email. This is a great starting point, and if you're satisfied with it, you can simply copy-paste it in a real email by clicking on email up there, and you can message the contact. If you don't like it, you can edit it until you do, and then you can send the email. These workflows let you cut the time you spend in HubSpot doing menial tasks like trying to figure out the right ICP for this person, or writing emails that are pretty much the same for all of them. And it can also help you sell AI services to your customers as an agency. You can automate many more things in HubSpot. The API connection to Zapier for HubSpot is very good, so you can automate pretty much whatever you can think of. You can automate a sales pipeline, you can automate commerce products, you can decide to include AI in your automations and call MindStudio workflows. You can do a lot to make your HubSpot experience faster and better, and you don't even need specific AI solutions from HubSpot. All of this will work with a simple Zapier subscription plus HubSpot plus MindStudio. I hope this helps, and happy building.